She had just become a $100 million woman, and for the first time in her life, she felt hopeful. Mara Whitfield didn't scream when she got the call. She didn't cry. She sat at her kitchen table in suburban Plano, Texas, staring at the wall calendar that tracked everyone's schedule but her own, thinking about how this one moment could finally change everything. The confirmation email sat open on her laptop. Her checking account showed $97.42. Soon, it would show something else entirely. For 12 years, she had lived in the background of her own marriage, supporting, sacrificing, adjusting, always believing that loyalty would eventually be rewarded. Samuel was the star, the senior partner everyone wanted to work with, the man whose calendar was color-coded by his assistant, whose clients sent Christmas cards addressed only to him. Mara was the infrastructure, the woman who made sure Ethan's permission slips were signed, who relocated 3 times without complaint, who smiled at company dinners while conversations flowed around her like she was furniture. So instead of calling her husband, she decided to surprise him. She picked up their son early from school, told the receptionist at Riverside Elementary it was a family emergency, which felt like the truth, even if she couldn't explain why. Ethan climbed into the back seat of her Honda Accord with his backpack and his questions. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To see Dad," she said, and her voice sounded different, stronger, like she'd borrowed it from someone else. She drove down Central Expressway toward downtown Dallas, rehearsing the words she would say. Not dramatic, not boastful, just honest. "We're finally safe. We can breathe now. This changes everything for us." But when she reached the 42nd floor of his glass tower on McKinney Avenue, the elevator doors opened into silence. The kind that feels staged. The reception desk was empty. The hallway stretched ahead, gray carpet and modern art and closed doors. She walked toward his corner office with a smile she hadn't worn in years, one hand holding Ethan's, the other clutching her purse like it contained proof of something. Then she heard it. Soft laughter. A woman's voice she didn't recognize. Young, easy, unguarded. Followed by her husband's voice, warm and relaxed and unashamed. Saying something she couldn't make out, but understood perfectly. Mara stopped walking. Ethan looked up at her. "Mom?" In that instant, something inside her didn't break. It crystallized. She didn't know yet that this moment would mark the end of her marriage. Not because of betrayal alone, but because of what came after. Because of how little he feared losing her. And because of how much power he never realized she was about to gain. What happened behind that office door would change everything. Not loudly, not immediately, but permanently. Because Mara Whitfield had spent 12 years being underestimated, and she had just won a lottery that wasn't just about money. It was about leverage. The first time Mara Whitfield disappeared, it was at a company dinner in Chicago. Samuel was receiving an award, Consultant of the Year, from the Midwest Business Alliance, and Mara wore the navy dress he'd approved that morning. Not too flashy, not too plain. She'd learned the formula. She sat at table 7 with the other spouses, while Samuel stood at the podium telling an anecdote about work-life balance that made everyone laugh. "My wife, Mara," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the tables. "She's my secret weapon. Keeps everything running while I'm out there fighting fires." Polite applause. A few people glanced in her direction. Most didn't bother. The woman beside her, Julia, married to one of the junior partners, leaned in and whispered, "He's so charismatic. You're lucky." Mara smiled the way she'd been smiling for years. I am. But luck, she'd learned, was just another word for compliance. The Whitfields lived in a 4-bedroom house in a development called Heritage Oaks, 20 minutes from downtown Plano. It had good schools, a community pool, and neighbors who waved but never lingered. Samuel traveled 3 weeks out of 4. When he was home, he worked from the study upstairs, door closed, conference calls bleeding into dinner time. Mara's days followed a pattern so predictable she could have automated it. Wake at 6:15. Make Ethan's lunch, peanut butter and honey, apple slices, pretzels in a small bag. Drive him to Riverside Elementary by 7:45. Return home. Handle the groceries, the dry cleaning, the bills Samuel's assistant forwarded when they piled up. At 3 Yong, pick up Ethan. At 5:30, start dinner. At 7 Ku, supervise homework. At 8:30, put Ethan to bed. At 9 Tan, watch TV alone while Samuel finished calls upstairs. On good days, he came down around 10 Kon and asked how Ethan was doing. On most days, he didn't. Mara had been an accountant once. She'd worked at a mid-sized firm in Austin, handling tax returns and estate planning for clients who remembered her name. She liked the precision of it, the way numbers either balanced or they didn't. No ambiguity, no performance. Then she met Samuel at a networking event in 2011. He was already on his way up. Sharp suit, sharper smile. The kind of man who made you feel like the only person in the room, until someone more important walked in. He pursued her with focus. Flowers, dinner reservations, weekend trips to Fredericksburg. He called her brilliant and exactly what I need. They married in 2013. Ethan was born in 2014. By 2015, Samuel's firm wanted him in Dallas. It's temporary, he said. 18 months, maybe 2 years. Then we'll reassess. Mara left her job, packed the house, found pediatricians and dentists and a grocery store that carried the organic milk Ethan liked. The 18 months became permanent. You're so good at this, Samuel told her once, watching her coordinate a move to their current house while he was in New York. I couldn't do what I do without you. She'd felt proud then, necessary. Now, she just felt efficient. The day before she bought the lottery ticket, Mara sat in her car outside Ethan's school and realized she couldn't remember the last time Samuel had asked her a question about herself. Not, how are you? In passing. Not, did you handle the thing? Before a trip. A real question about what she thought, what she wanted, what she missed. She scrolled through their recent text messages. Her side was logistics and updates. His side was affirmations and travel delays. Mara. Ethan has a dentist appointment Thursday. Can you pick him up if you're back? Samuel. In meetings all day. You're a lifesaver. Mara. Water heater is making noise again. Should I call someone? Samuel. Your call. Trust your judgment. She put the phone down and closed her eyes. That evening, Samuel called from O'Hare International. Hey, quick question. Did you confirm the reservation at Shinsei for the Hendersons? They're in town Friday. Yes, Mara said. 7 o'clock. Perfect. You're amazing. Gotta run. Boarding. He hung up before she could respond. Ethan was watching a show in the living room. Mara stood in the kitchen, staring at the refrigerator covered in Ethan's drawings and school calendars and grocery lists written in her handwriting. She didn't feel amazing. She felt like a very good assistant. The next morning, she bought the ticket. It wasn't planned. She'd stopped at the Tom Thumb on Preston Road to grab milk and bread. The line was long. Some man at the front arguing with the cashier about expired coupons, waving a crumpled circular like evidence in a trial. Mara stood behind him, patient, her cart holding the same things it always did. The lottery display was right there. Powerball. Jackpot. 100 million. She didn't play the lottery. Never had. Samuel thought it was a tax on people who don't understand probability. But standing there, listening to the man argue about saving 60 cents, something shifted. She pulled a 20 from her wallet and handed it to the cashier when her turn came. "1 Powerball ticket, please. Quick pick." The cashier printed it without looking at her. Mara folded it into her purse and forgot about it. That night, Samuel didn't come home. He texted around 9:15 p.m. "Samuel, stuck in emergency client meeting. Grabbing hotel near office. See you tomorrow." Mara read the message twice, then put her phone face down on the counter. Ethan was already asleep. The house was quiet in the way that felt like waiting. She poured herself a glass of wine, cheap Chardonnay Samuel never touched, and sat on the back patio. The neighborhood was dark except for porch lights and the blue glow of televisions through windows. She wondered how many of those houses held women like her. Women who'd traded pieces of themselves so gradually they didn't notice until the person they used to be was unrecognizable. Her phone buzzed. "Samuel, don't wait up." She didn't respond. The call came at 9:47 a.m. on a Wednesday. Mara was folding laundry in the living room, sorting Ethan's school uniforms into piles, when her phone rang from an unknown number. Normally she ignored those. Robocalls about car warranties and final notices for subscriptions she didn't have. But something made her answer. "Hello? Is this Mara Whitfield?" A woman's voice, professional, careful. "Yes." "Mrs. Whitfield, this is Angela Reeves from the Texas Lottery Commission. I'm calling to inform you that you are the sole winner of last night's Powerball jackpot." Mara stopped folding. "I'm sorry, what?" "You purchased a quick pick ticket at the Tom Thumb location on Preston Road in Plano. The numbers drawn were 7, 18, 22, 35, 41, and Powerball 9. Your ticket matches all 6 numbers. The jackpot amount is $100 million. Mara sat down on the couch. "Mrs. Whitfield, are you there?" "Yes, Are you sure? We've verified the ticket number through our system. I'll need you to come to our Austin office to begin the claims process. But yes, ma'am, you've won $100 million. Mara asked her to repeat it, then asked again. Angela Reeves, patient and practiced, walked her through the next steps. Secure the ticket. Don't tell anyone yet. Schedule an appointment. Consider legal and financial advice. "Do you have any questions?" Angela asked. Mara had 1,000. She asked none of them. "No," she said. "Thank you." She hung up and sat very still. The laundry basket sat at her feet. Ethan's blue polo, Samuel's socks, the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Everything exactly as it was 5 minutes ago. Except nothing was the same. She found the ticket in her purse, tucked inside the zippered pocket where she kept spare cash. The paper was thin and unimpressive. She checked the numbers against the lottery website on her phone. They matched. Mara put the ticket back in her purse and closed it carefully. Then she walked upstairs to her bedroom. Their bedroom, though Samuel's side was mostly decorative, and locked the door. She sat on the edge of the bed and let herself feel it. Not joy, not yet. Relief. Overwhelming, dizzying relief. For the first time in over a decade, she didn't have to worry. Didn't have to justify. Didn't have to make herself small enough to fit into someone else's life. She could breathe. Her first thought wasn't yachts or mansions. It was Ethan. He could go to any college he wanted, could study whatever he loved without calculating debt, could have opportunities she and Samuel had fought over. Samuel insisting private school was unnecessary. Mara quietly transferring funds from her nearly empty personal account to cover music lessons Samuel called hobbies. Her second thought was Samuel. She imagined telling him, imagined his face shifting from confusion to shock to something else. Maybe pride. Maybe relief. Maybe, finally, a recognition that she had value beyond logistics. She wanted to believe this would change things between them, that money, security, freedom would remove the weight that had been pressing down on their marriage for years. She wanted to believe he would see her differently. So she decided to surprise him. She picked up Ethan early from school, signing him out at 2:30 with a vague excuse about a family appointment. He climbed into the back seat of her Honda, confused but happy. "Where are we going?" he asked, buckling his seatbelt. "To see Dad," Mara said. "Is something wrong?" She looked at him in the rearview mirror. Ethan was 10, small for his age, with Samuel's dark eyes and her cautious smile. He was used to things being wrong, used to last-minute changes and tense silences. "No," Mara said, and her voice sounded different even to herself. "Something's right." They drove toward downtown Dallas, merging onto Central Expressway through mid-afternoon traffic. The skyline rose ahead, glass towers catching sunlight, the Bank of America Plaza like a green crystal, the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge arcing over the Trinity River. Mara had made this drive dozens of times. Dropping off documents Samuel forgot, attending company events, meeting him for dinners he inevitably cancelled. Today felt different. She rehearsed the words. "Samuel, something incredible happened. We won the lottery. $100 million. We're set. Ethan's set. We can finally relax." She imagined his reaction. Shock, obviously, disbelief, then laughter, that warm, charismatic laugh he saved for clients. He'd pull her in, kiss her forehead, tell her she was amazing. Maybe he'd cry. Maybe they both would. Maybe this would be the reset button their marriage desperately needed. She parked in the visitor garage beneath Samuel's building. The Comerica Bank Tower on McKinney Avenue, all sleek glass and polished limestone. Ethan held her hand as they crossed to the elevators. "Does Dad know we're coming?" he asked. "It's a surprise," Mara said. The elevator carried them to the 42nd floor in smooth, silent ascent. The doors opened into the lobby of Sterling Consulting Group. White marble, modern art, a receptionist desk that looked more like a sculpture. The receptionist was gone. Her computer was dark. Mara checked her watch. 3:08 p.m. Middle of the workday. Odd. "Hello?" she called. No response. She walked down the hallway toward Samuel's corner office, Ethan trailing beside her. The carpet absorbed their footsteps. The whole floor felt empty, suspended. Then she heard it, laughter. Soft, unguarded laughter that drifted from behind Samuel's office door like smoke. Mara stopped walking. It was a woman's voice. Young, light, the kind of laugh that suggested intimacy. Not a colleague, not professional. Then Samuel's voice, low and warm. "You're terrible. We can't keep doing this here." Another laugh. "You say that every time." Mara's hand tightened around Ethan's. "Mom?" Ethan whispered. "Is Dad busy?" She couldn't answer. Her body had frozen in place, her mind trying to reconcile what she was hearing with what she had driven here to say. Samuel's voice again. "Come here." A pause. Then a sound Mara recognized but couldn't process. Fabric rustling, movement, the distinct absence of words that meant something she couldn't let herself believe. Ethan tugged her hand. "Should we knock?" Mara looked down at him. His face was open, curious, innocent. 10 years old and still trusting that adults made sense. She couldn't let him hear this. "No," she said, her voice barely audible. "We should go. But now." She pulled him back toward the elevators, moving quickly but quietly, every instinct screaming to be silent, to not interrupt, to disappear the way she'd been disappearing for years. The elevator doors opened immediately, as if the building itself wanted her gone. They stepped inside. Ethan looked up at her. "Mom, what's wrong?" The doors closed. Mara pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes. Her purse hung from her shoulder, containing a lottery ticket worth $100 million, and a marriage that was suddenly worth nothing. "Nothing," she whispered. "Nothing's wrong." But everything was. She drove home on autopilot, following roads she knew by muscle memory. Ethan asked questions she deflected with vague reassurances. "Dad was busy. We'll see him later. Everything's fine." Lies felt easier than truth. When they pulled into their driveway in Plano, the house looked exactly as she'd left it. Same brick facade, same trimmed lawn, same mailbox with the little flag down. She unlocked the door and let Ethan inside. "Homework," she said, "then screen time." He nodded and headed upstairs, sensing something but too young to name it. Mara stood in the kitchen and placed her purse on the counter. The ticket was still inside. The numbers were still the same. $100 million. But the story she'd imagined telling Samuel, the reunion, the relief, the reset, dissolved like sugar in water, because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what she'd heard behind that door, the casual intimacy, the lack of fear, the certainty that he could do this and she would never know. And if she hadn't won, if she hadn't decided to surprise him, if she'd called instead, given him warning, how long would it have continued? How long had it been continuing? Her phone buzzed. "Samuel. Leaving office now. Home by 7. "Need me to grab dinner?" Mara stared at the message. She could confront him now. Text back. "I was at your office today. I heard you. Watch the panic unfold in real time." But something stopped her. She typed, "No, I'll cook." He replied with a thumbs-up emoji. She put the phone down and stood very still in her kitchen, surrounded by the life she'd built for him. A life that had just revealed itself as fiction. Samuel came home at 7:14, carrying his briefcase and his charming smile. "Hey," he said, kissing her cheek in the absent way he always did. "Something smells good." Mara had made chicken and roasted vegetables. The table was set. Ethan was washing his hands. "How was your day?" Samuel asked, loosening his tie. "Fine," Mara said. "Yours?" "Brutal. Back-to-back meetings. I'm exhausted." He sat at the head of the table. Ethan joined them. They ate dinner like they always did, Samuel talking about work, Ethan talking about school, Mara listening and passing dishes and refilling glasses. She watched him carefully. His face showed nothing. No guilt, no hesitation, no awareness that anything had shifted. He told a story about a client in Austin who wanted to expand into Houston. He laughed at Ethan's joke about his science teacher. He complimented the meal. He was perfect. And she realized he'd always been perfect at this, at compartmentalizing, at being whoever the moment required. "You okay?" Samuel asked, noticing her silence. Mara smiled. "Just tired." "You should rest more," he said, patting her hand. "You do too much." She nodded. After dinner, Samuel went upstairs to his study. Ethan watched TV. Mara cleaned the kitchen with methodical precision, loading the dishwasher, wiping counters, putting away leftovers. Then she went to her bedroom, locked the door, and opened her laptop. She had research to do. Mara spent 3 days living inside a performance. She woke early, made breakfast, drove Ethan to school, smiled at the carpool line parents who never remembered her name, came home, cleaned, planned meals, picked up Ethan, helped with homework, cooked dinner, made conversation with Samuel that felt like reading from a script. On the surface, nothing changed. Underneath, everything did. She didn't confront him, didn't ask questions, didn't let her expressions slip even once. She watched. Samuel traveled to Chicago on Thursday. Before he left, he kissed her goodbye and told her he'd be back Saturday morning. "I'll miss you," he said, and his voice sounded sincere. "Safe flight," Mara replied. The door closed. His car pulled out of the driveway. Mara stood at the window and watched him disappear. Then she went upstairs to his study. She'd never searched through his things before. It felt like a violation of trust, which was almost funny, given everything. But she needed to understand the scope. Needed to know if what she'd heard at his office was an isolated incident or a pattern. Samuel's study was immaculate. Mahogany desk, leather chair, diplomas on the wall. Everything organized, password protected, controlled. But people who feel unthreatened make mistakes. She opened his desk drawer, found old business cards, client notes, a bottle of expensive whiskey he kept for celebrations. His laptop was on the desk, closed. She didn't know his password, but his iPad was in the drawer, unlocked. She opened it. His email was synced. She scrolled through, her hand steady despite the pounding in her chest. Most of it was work, contracts, proposals, expense reports. Then she found a thread that made her stop breathing. The email address was generic, Brooklyn Smither, followed by a Gmail domain. The subject line, "Next week?" Mara opened it. "Brooke, I can't keep sneaking around like this. It's exhausting. Samuel, I know. I'm working on it. Just need more time. Brooke, you've been saying that for 6 months. Samuel, Brooke, be patient. These things are complicated. Brooke, you said you'd leave her." Mara scrolled up. The thread went back 14 months. 14 months of messages, plans, promises, detailed conversations about hotel rooms in Austin, Chicago, New York. Complaints about playing house with Mara. Assurances that he was handling it. She read them all. By the time she finished, her hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. She took photos of the emails on her phone. Then she closed the iPad, returned it to the drawer exactly as she'd found it, and walked back downstairs. Ethan was at a friend's house. The house was empty. Mara sat on the couch and let herself feel it. Not heartbreak. She'd expected that, prepared for it. What she felt was clarity. Because the emails revealed something important. Samuel wasn't just unfaithful. He was strategic. He'd been planning an exit for over a year, carefully managing both relationships, waiting for the right moment. The moment when leaving wouldn't cost him anything. And if she hadn't won the lottery, if she'd stayed invisible, manageable, dependent, he would have left her with nothing. She called the Texas Lottery Commission that afternoon and scheduled her appointment for the following Tuesday in Austin. Then she called a lawyer, not a divorce attorney. Not yet. That would tip her hand. She called Diane Ruiz, a friend from her old accounting firm who'd gone to law school and now practiced family law in Dallas. They met for coffee at a Starbucks in Addison, far enough from Plano that Mara wouldn't run into anyone she knew. Diane was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, practical. She hugged Mara and ordered them both lattes before sitting down. You sounded serious on the phone, Diane said. What's going on? Mara told her. Not everything. Just enough. I think my husband is having an affair. I need to know my options. Diane's expression didn't change. How long has it been going on? I'm not sure. Over a year, at least. Do you have proof? Yes. Does he know you know? No. Diane nodded slowly. Good. Don't tell him. Not yet. Why? Because the person who moves first wins, Mara. If you confront him now, he'll lawyer up, hide assets, control the narrative. If you wait and prepare, you hold the power. Mara sipped her latte. What should I do? Document everything. Bank statements, credit cards, emails, anything that shows pattern and behavior. Open your own accounts he doesn't know about. If you have any income or assets in your name, secure them. And... Diane hesitated. Are you financially dependent on him? Completely. Diane's jaw tightened. Then you need to be very careful. Texas is a community property state, so you're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. But if he's been hiding money or planning this for a while, he might have already moved assets. Mara thought about the lottery ticket in her purse. What if I had my own money? She asked carefully. Separate from him. Then you'd have leverage, Diane said. Why? Did you inherit something? Something like that. Diane studied her. How much are we talking? Mara hesitated. Then, enough. Enough to hire the best attorney in Texas. Yes. Diane sat back. Then you're not as vulnerable as you think. But Mara, don't spend it yet. Don't even tell him it exists. Money disappears fast in divorce. You need to protect it first. How? Set up a trust. Use a different attorney, one he doesn't know. Keep everything confidential. Once it's secured, then you can move. Mara nodded. And Mara? Diane reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted. No, Mara said quietly. But maybe it's what I needed. Samuel came home Saturday morning with flowers. Missed you, he said, handing her a bouquet of white roses. Mara accepted them with a smile. Thank you. They're beautiful. He kissed her, played with Ethan in the backyard, grilled steaks for dinner, told her about Chicago, about clients, about how exhausting travel was. I'm thinking of cutting back, he said over dinner, spending more time here, with you and Ethan. That would be nice, Mara said. Ethan beamed. Really, Dad? Really? Samuel ruffled his hair. Family's important. Mara watched him perform, watched him believe his own performance. She wondered if Brooke was receiving similar promises. That night, after Ethan was asleep and Samuel was in the shower, Mara opened her laptop and began building a file. She downloaded bank statements, credit card records, tax returns, emails, photos. Everything she could find that painted a picture of their marriage, their finances, their life. Then she created a new email account Samuel didn't know about and sent everything to herself. Evidence, protection, power. When Samuel came to bed, he wrapped his arm around her like he always did. Love you, he murmured, half asleep. Mara stared at the ceiling. Love you too, she said. Another lie. But this time, she was the one telling it. The call from Angela Reeves came on Monday morning, while Mara was driving back from the grocery store. Mrs. Whitfield, I wanted to confirm your appointment tomorrow at 10 a.m. in our Austin office. Do you have an attorney or financial advisor you'd like to bring? Not yet, Mara said. I'd strongly recommend it. A windfall of this size requires careful planning. Tax implications, asset protection, estate planning. It's complex. I understand. I'll handle it. One more thing, Angela said. Have you told anyone about the win? No. Good. I'd advise keeping it that way until after the claim is processed. Once you go public, everything changes. Mara thought about Samuel, about Brooke, about 14 months of emails and lies. I'll be careful, she said. She told Samuel she was visiting her sister in Austin for a couple of days. Now? He asked, distracted, typing on his phone. Is everything okay? Just hasn't seen Ethan in a while. Thought it would be nice. Sure, I've got late meetings Tuesday anyway. He didn't ask which sister, didn't ask if she needed money, didn't look up from his phone. Mara packed an overnight bag for herself and Ethan. They left Tuesday morning at 7, driving south on I-35 toward Austin. Ethan was thrilled. I love Aunt Rachel's house. Mara didn't correct him. She didn't have a sister named Rachel. But Samuel wouldn't remember that. The Texas Lottery Commission office was in a nondescript building near the Domain in North Austin. Mara left Ethan with a friend from college who lived nearby, someone Samuel had never met, and walked into the office at 9:52 a.m. Angela Reeves met her in a private conference room. She was younger than Mara expected, professional but warm, wearing a gray suit and carrying a folder thick with paperwork. Mrs. Whitfield, congratulations. She shook Mara's hand. I know this must be overwhelming. It is, Mara admitted. Let's go through everything step by step. They did. Angela explained the options: lump sum versus annuity, tax withholdings, publicity requirements. In Texas, lottery winners couldn't remain completely anonymous, but Mara could claim through a trust to minimize exposure. I'd recommend forming an LLC or trust before claiming, Angela said. It protects your identity and your assets. I'll do that. Do you have an attorney? Mara thought of Diane. But Diane practiced family law, not estate planning. Can you recommend someone? Angela handed her a list. These attorneys specialize in lottery winners. They'll help you structure everything properly. Mara chose one. Marcus Chen. Wait. She remembered the instruction. Not Chen. Mara chose one. Marcus Blake, an attorney with offices in Austin and Dallas. She called his office from the conference room. His assistant answered. Blake Legal Group. My name is Mara Whitfield. I need to speak with Marcus Blake about forming a trust. What's the nature of the trust? I'd prefer to discuss that with him directly. It's time-sensitive. A pause. Hold, please. 2 minutes later, Marcus Blake himself picked up. His voice was deep, measured. Mrs. Whitfield, how can I help you? I've won the Texas Powerball lottery. I need to claim through a trust. Can you help me? No hesitation. Yes. When can you meet? Today. I have an opening at 3 p.m. My Austin office. I'll be there. Marcus Blake was in his mid-50s, African-American, with silver threading through his short hair and glasses that made him look like a professor. His office was lined with law books and photographs of him, with politicians and business leaders. He listened while Mara explained her situation. Not the affair, not Samuel, just the basics. She'd won. She needed protection. She needed privacy. Smart, Marcus said. Most winners make the mistake of claiming immediately, then wonder why their lives fall apart. A trust gives you insulation. How quickly can we set it up? If you're willing to pay rush fees, we can have it done in 48 hours. Do it. Marcus made notes. I'll need some information. Your full legal name, address, social security number, beneficiaries. My son, Ethan. He's 10. Anyone else? Mara thought of Samuel. In a normal world, She would have said his name without thinking. "No," she said. "Just Ethan." Marcus looked up. "Not your husband?" "I'd prefer to keep him off the trust documents." Marcus didn't push. He'd seen enough cases to know when not to ask questions. "Understood. I'll draft everything and send it to you by tomorrow morning. Once you approve, I'll file with the state. You'll be able to claim by Friday." "Thank you." He walked her to the door. "Mrs. Whitfield, a word of advice?" "Yes. Whatever you're protecting yourself from, take it seriously. Money this large changes people. The ones closest to you, especially." Mara met his eyes. "I'm learning that." She drove back to Plano that evening. Ethan fell asleep in the back seat. Her phone buzzed with a text from Samuel. "Samuel, how's Austin?" "Mara, good. Ethan's having fun." "Samuel, when are you back?" "Mara, tomorrow afternoon." "Samuel, K. Miss you." She didn't respond. Instead, she called Diane. "I need the name of the best divorce attorney in Texas," Mara said. "Someone ruthless." Diane paused. "You're sure?" "Yes." "Okay. There's a woman in Dallas, Patricia Moreno. She handles high-net-worth divorces. Very aggressive, very expensive. Set up a meeting." "Mara, are you okay?" "I will be." She hung up and drove through the darkness, the city lights of Dallas rising ahead like a promise. Samuel's mistake came on Thursday. Mara was at home when her phone buzzed with a notification. It wasn't from Samuel. It was from a credit card alert, one of their joint accounts. "Chase alert. A charge of $881 has been posted to your account at the Ritz-Carlton, Dallas." Mara opened the app. The charge was from Wednesday night. Samuel had told her he was in Chicago. She checked his travel calendar, which he kept meticulously updated. Sure enough, Chicago client meetings wed through. But the charge was Dallas, downtown Dallas. She took a screenshot. Then she checked his other credit cards, found another charge from the same night, Uchi, Dallas. Dinner for two. $340. She took another screenshot. Samuel came home Thursday evening, his carry-on suitcase in hand, his tie loosened. "How was Chicago?" Mara asked from the kitchen. "Exhausting. Clients were demanding." He kissed her cheek. "Glad to be home." "I bet." She handed him a glass of water. "When's your next trip?" "Next week, New York." "Busy schedule." "Too busy." He sighed. "I really need to cut back." Mara smiled. "You should." He went upstairs to shower. She opened her laptop and added the screenshots to her file. He was getting sloppy, and that meant he was either getting comfortable or getting desperate. Either way, it was a mistake. The trust was finalized on Friday. Marcus Blake called at 9 a.m. "It's done. The Whitfield Family Trust is registered with the state. You can claim the lottery prize any time." Mara scheduled the claim for Monday. She told Samuel she needed to visit Austin again for paperwork related to her sister. He barely looked up from his laptop. "Sure, I'll be in meetings anyway." On Monday, Mara walked into the Texas Lottery Commission office with Marcus Blake at her side. Angela Reeves greeted them with a smile and walked them through the final process. Mara signed forms, approved tax withholdings, provided banking information for the trust account Marcus had set up. "Congratulations, Mrs. Whitfield," Angela said, shaking her hand. "After taxes and withholdings, your lump sum payment will be approximately $62 million. $62 million. Mara nodded calmly, as if this number made sense, as if she'd prepared for this her entire life. "When will it transfer?" "Within 7 business days. And publicity? We'll need to do a press release, but we'll use the trust name instead of yours. You'll need to appear for one official photo. It's state law. But we can minimize your exposure. Mara agreed. The photo was taken in a small room with a fake check the size of a poster board. Mara stood beside it in a simple dress, her expression calm, her smile measured. She looked like a stranger to herself. "Thank you," she said, and walked out. The money arrived on Wednesday. Mara checked her phone during Ethan's soccer practice and saw the notification from the bank. Deposit $62,000. She stared at the screen. Beside her, another mom was complaining about the cost of club soccer fees. $1,500 a season. It's insane. Mara nodded sympathetically. It really is. She looked back at her phone. $62 million in an account Samuel didn't know existed. She had power now. Real, tangible power. And she was going to use it carefully. That evening, Mara met Patricia Moreno. Patricia's office was in a high-rise in uptown Dallas, all glass and steel, and the kind of view that reminded you who had power in this city. Patricia herself was in her early 60s, with sharp features, an expensive haircut, and a handshake that felt like a threat. "Diane told me you need representation," Patricia said, sitting behind her desk. "Tell me everything." Mara did. The affair, the emails, the lies, the 14 months of planning, the credit card charges that proved he was still lying. Patricia took notes without expression. "Do you want this marriage to end?" she asked when Mara finished. "Yes." "Do you want to hurt him?" Mara hesitated. "I want him to understand what he lost." Patricia smiled. It wasn't warm. "That can be arranged. Tell me about your financial situation." "It's complicated." "How complicated?" Mara told her about the lottery. Patricia's expression didn't change, but her pen stopped moving. "You won $62 million and he doesn't know?" "Not yet." "When were you planning to tell him?" "After the divorce." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Mrs. Whitfield, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen everything. But this is a gift. Do you understand what you have? Leverage. More than that. You have the ability to walk away without needing anything from him. That's rare. Most of my clients are fighting for security. You already have it, which means we can focus on something else." "What?" "Justice." Patricia laid out the strategy. First, secure the lottery money. Marcus had already done that by setting up the trust in Mara's name alone. Texas law was complex when it came to winnings during marriage, but since Mara had purchased the ticket with her own money and claimed it through a separate trust before divorce proceedings began, she had a strong case for it being separate property. Second, document Samuel's affair. They already had emails. Now, they needed more. Patricia hired a private investigator who confirmed what Mara suspected. Brooke was a junior consultant at Samuel's firm, 27 years old. They'd been meeting regularly for over a year. Third, wait. Let Samuel think everything was fine. Let him continue traveling, lying, planning his exit. "Why wait?" Mara asked. "Because the longer he thinks he's in control, the more mistakes he'll make. Right now, he's comfortable. He thinks you're oblivious. That's when people get careless." "How long?" "A month, maybe 2. By then, we'll have everything we need." The waiting was harder than Mara expected. She went through the motions, made dinners, attended Ethan's games, smiled at Samuel when he came home, laughed at his jokes, responded to his texts. But inside, she was someone else. Someone who checked her bank account every morning and saw 8 figures. Someone who had weekly calls with Patricia, strategizing. Someone who was learning what it felt like to have options. Samuel noticed something had changed, but he couldn't place it. "You seem different," he said one evening, watching her cook. "Different how?" Mara asked, stirring pasta. "I don't know. Lighter? Happier?" She turned to face him. "Maybe I am." He smiled. "That's good. You deserve it." The irony wasn't lost on her. On a Tuesday night in mid-November, Samuel came home with flowers again. This time, red roses, a dozen of them. "What's the occasion?" Mara asked. "No occasion. Just wanted to remind you that I appreciate you." She put them in a vase, arranged them carefully. "Thank you," she said. He kissed her forehead. "I've been thinking. Maybe we should take a trip. Just the two of us. Get away for a weekend." "What about Ethan?" "My mom can watch him. We could go to Santa Fe. That little inn you liked." Mara remembered that trip. It was 7 years ago, before Ethan started school. They'd walked through art galleries and eaten at small restaurants, and Samuel had told her she was the only person who understood him. She'd believed it then. "That sounds nice," she said now. "I'll book it." He pulled out his phone, already scrolling through options. Mara watched him plan a romantic getaway while maintaining a year-long affair. She wondered if Brooke was getting flowers too. The breaking point came in December. Mara's private investigator, a woman named Linda Torres, called on a Friday afternoon. "I have something," Linda said. "Can you meet?" They met at a coffee shop in Richardson. Linda handed her a folder. "He's planning to leave," Linda said. "Filed paperwork to transfer assets, set up a new LLC. He's moving money." Mara opened the folder. Inside were bank statements showing transfers from their joint accounts into accounts she didn't recognize. "How much?" "About 200,000 so far. Looks like he's been doing it slowly. Small transfers over 6 months." "Is that legal?" "In Texas, both spouses have equal access to community property. So technically, yes. But if he's doing it without your knowledge in preparation for divorce, a judge won't look kindly on it." Mara closed the folder. "When is he planning to file?" "I don't know yet, but based on the timeline, I'd guess soon. Maybe after the holidays." Mara nodded. "Thank you." Linda hesitated. "Mrs. Whitfield, you should move first. If he files before you do, he controls the narrative." "I will." She called Patricia from her car. "He's moving assets," Mara said. Linda just confirmed it. "Then it's time," Patricia said. "Are you ready?" Mara looked at her house in the distance. The house she'd managed and maintained and filled with the illusion of family. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." The divorce papers were filed on December 18th, 3 days before Samuel's planned trip to New York, with Brooke. A trip Mara knew about because Linda had found the hotel reservation. Patricia filed in Dallas County Family Court at 9 a.m. By 10 a.m., a process server arrived at Samuel's office with the paperwork. Mara wasn't there to see his face, but she could imagine it. She was at home with Ethan, helping him decorate Christmas cookies, when her phone rang. Samuel's name lit up the screen. She let it ring. He called again, then texted. "Samuel, what the fuck is this?" "Samuel, you filed for divorce?" "Samuel, call me. Now." Mara put her phone face down on the counter. Ethan looked up. "Who was that?" "No one important," she said. "Let's finish the cookies." Samuel came home at noon, slamming the front door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. "Ethan, go to your room," Mara said calmly. "But now, please." Ethan looked between them, sensing the danger, and ran upstairs. Samuel stood in the entryway, the divorce papers crumpled in his fist. His face was red, his tie pulled loose, his composure shattered. "What is this?" he demanded, waving the papers. "You're divorcing me?" Yes, Mara said. Why? What did I do? She almost laughed. You're seriously asking that? Mara, I don't know what you think. I know about Brooke. He stopped. The color drained from his face. I know about the emails, Mara continued, her voice steady. I know about the hotel rooms. I know you've been planning this for over a year. I know about the money you've been moving. I know everything, Samuel. He opened his mouth, closed it. Tried again. Mara, let me explain. No, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. We can fix this. We can't. He took a step forward, his hands raised like he was calming a frightened animal. Mara, please. Let's talk about this. I made a mistake. I'll end it. I'll do whatever you want. I don't want anything from you anymore. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. This marriage is over. He stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression. The panic receded, replaced by something colder. You can't afford to divorce me, he said. You don't work. You have no income. You'll get half of what we have, sure. But then what? You'll struggle while I move on. Is that what you want? Mara smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd given him in weeks. I'll be fine, she said. You think half of our assets is enough? Mara, be realistic. I said I'll be fine. Something in her tone made him stop. He looked at her more closely, seeing something he hadn't seen before. What did you do? He asked slowly. Nothing. Mara, what did you do? I won the lottery, she said simply. $100 million. I claimed it 6 weeks ago. It's in a trust account. Your name isn't on it. The silence that followed was absolute. Samuel stared at her like she'd spoken a language he didn't understand. You... What? I won the lottery. The morning before I came to your office and heard you with Brooke. I was going to surprise you. Tell you we were set, that we could finally relax. She paused. Thank God I didn't. You're lying. I'm not. Prove it. She pulled out her phone, opened her banking app, and turned the screen toward him. He looked. His face went white. That's community property, he said, his voice barely audible. Half of that is mine. No, Samuel. I bought the ticket before I knew about the affair. Claimed it through a separate trust before filing for divorce. My attorney is very good. You won't see a penny. That's illegal. It's not. But feel free to hire a lawyer and try. He was shaking now, not with anger, with something closer to terror, because he'd just realized he'd lost everything. Not the money. He'd never needed her money. But the control, the safety net, the person who'd been waiting patiently while he decided when to leave. She'd left first. Mara, please. You should go, she said. Pack some things. Stay somewhere else. My attorney will be in touch. You can't kick me out of my own house. It's not your house. It's our house. And you're making Ethan uncomfortable. As if on cue, Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs, his face pale. Samuel looked up at him, then back at Mara. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Mara said. It is. He left, stuffed clothes into a suitcase, grabbed his laptop, and walked out without another word. The door closed. Mara stood in the sudden silence of her house now, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Ethan came downstairs slowly. Mom, what's happening? She sat on the couch and pulled him close. Dad and I are going to live separately for a while. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Is it because of me? No, sweetheart. It's because of us. Sometimes adults make mistakes. and sometimes the best thing to do is start over. Are you sad? She thought about it. No, she said honestly. I'm not. He rested his head on her shoulder. Is Dad sad? Probably. Do you still love him? Mara looked at the Christmas tree they'd decorated together, at the life she'd built in this house, at the son who'd been the only good thing to come from this marriage. I love who I thought he was, she said, but that person doesn't exist. Ethan didn't fully understand, but he nodded anyway. We'll be okay, Mara said. I promise. And for the first time in 12 years, she meant it. The divorce took 4 months. Samuel hired an expensive attorney, Mark Preston, known for representing executives in high-stakes cases. He filed motions claiming Mara had hidden assets, violated community property laws, and acted in bad faith. Patricia Moreno dismantled every argument. The lottery ticket had been purchased with Mara's personal debit card, a card linked to an account Samuel had never contributed to. The numbers were random, not community property. The claim was made before divorce proceedings began. Texas case law was murky, but Patricia found precedents, built arguments, and presented evidence of Samuel's affair and asset transfers that made him look deceptive and calculating. The judge, a woman named Helen Ortega, who'd presided over family court for 20 years, was not impressed by Samuel's claims. Mr. Whitfield, she said during a hearing in March, your argument is essentially that your wife should have told you about a lottery win while you were actively planning to leave her for another woman and transferring marital assets without her knowledge. Is that correct? Mark Preston tried to object. Judge Ortega silenced him with a look. I'm not interested in technical arguments, she continued. I'm interested in equity, and nothing about your behavior suggests you deserve equity here. Samuel sat in the defendant's chair, his jaw tight, his expensive suit unable to hide the fact that he was losing. The divorce was finalized on April 22nd. Mara got the house. Full custody of Ethan, with supervised visitation for Samuel. Her lottery winnings remained untouched. Samuel got half of their other marital assets, about $340,000, mostly from retirement accounts and his share of the home equity. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't what he'd expected. Mara stood outside the courthouse in downtown Dallas, the spring sun warm on her face, and felt lighter than she had in years. Patricia stood beside her. You did it. We did it, Mara corrected. What now? Mara looked at the city around her, the buildings, the traffic, the people rushing past. Her whole life had been lived here, arranged around someone else's ambitions. Now I figure out who I am, she said. Ethan adjusted slowly. He spent weekends with Samuel at first, staying in Samuel's new apartment in Uptown, a sterile 2-bedroom with modern furniture and no personality. Samuel tried, took him to movies, bought him gifts, asked about school. But Ethan wasn't a little kid anymore. He was 11, old enough to sense insincerity. Dad's different, he told Mara one Sunday evening after returning from visitation. He keeps apologizing, but it doesn't feel real. What do you mean? It feels like he's reading from a script. Mara understood. Samuel had always performed. It was just easier to see now. You don't have to pretend with him, Mara said, or with me. You can feel however you feel. I'm mad at him, Ethan admitted. Is that okay? Yes, but I still love him. That's okay too. Ethan leaned against her. Are you mad at him? Mara thought about it. I was. Now I'm just done. Is done better? Much better. Mara started therapy in May. Her therapist, Dr. Carolyn Eng, had an office in Addison with soft lighting and comfortable chairs, and a policy of asking hard questions. "Why did you stay so long?" Dr. Sao Eng asked during their third session. "I thought that's what marriage was," Mara said. "Sacrifice, compromise." But he wasn't sacrificing or compromising. "No. So what were you getting out of it?" Mara hesitated. "I thought I was building something, a family, a life. I thought if I did everything right, it would work." "And when did you realize it wouldn't?" "When I heard him with her. When I realized he wasn't afraid of losing me." Dr. Eng made a note. "What changed after that?" "I stopped waiting for him to see me. I started seeing myself." "And?" "And I didn't like what I saw. A woman who'd disappeared into someone else's life, who'd stopped having opinions or dreams or value outside of being useful. You don't feel that way anymore?" "No." "What changed?" Mara thought about the lottery, about the trust, about the day she'd walked into Patricia's office and said, "I want him to understand what he lost." "I remembered I had power," she said, "even before the money. I just didn't know it." The press release about the lottery win came out in June. The Texas Lottery Commission published the standard announcement: Whitfield Family Trust claims $100 million Powerball prize. There was a photo, Mara standing beside the oversized check, smiling calmly. No quotes, no personal details. But Plano was a small world. People connected the dots. Mara started getting calls. Old friends she hadn't spoken to in years, distant relatives, neighbors who suddenly wanted to catch up. She ignored most of them, but one call surprised her. It was from her former boss at the accounting firm in Austin, Tom Harrigan. "Mara," he said when she answered, "I saw the news." "Congratulations." "Thank you. Listen, I know this is out of the blue, but I wanted to say something. When you left to follow Samuel, I told you that you were making a mistake. Do you remember?" She did. She'd been angry then, thought he didn't understand. "I remember," she said. "I was right. But not for the reasons I thought. You were brilliant, Mara. You are brilliant. And I hate that you spent a decade being someone's assistant when you could have been so much more." Her throat tightened. "Thank you, Tom. If you ever want to come back to accounting, or finance, or anything, call me. Not because you won the lottery, because you're talented, and you deserve better than what you had." She thanked him again and hung up. She didn't want her old job back. But she appreciated the reminder that she'd been someone before Samuel, and could be someone again. In July, Mara made a decision. She sold the house in Plano. Too many memories, too much history. She and Ethan moved to a smaller place in Preston Hollow, a neighborhood with tree-lined streets and old money, and a quiet that felt intentional. The house had 4 bedrooms, a backyard with a garden, and most importantly, no ghosts. Ethan picked out his own furniture, painted his room blue, hung posters of soccer players and constellations. "It feels different," he said on their first night, "like we can start over." "We can," Mara agreed. She furnished the house, slowly, thoughtfully. Not with things Samuel would have approved. With things she liked. Bright colors, comfortable chairs, art from local galleries in Deep Ellum. She hired a financial advisor, not one of the names the Lottery Commission recommended, but a woman named Jasmine Cole, who specialized in helping women manage wealth independently. "What do you want this money to do?" Jasmine asked during their first meeting. "I want it to give me options," Mara said, "and I want to use it to help people who don't have options." "Be specific." Mara thought about it. about the years she'd spent invisible, about the women she'd met at company dinners who looked like her, efficient, dependable, disappearing. "I want to start a foundation," she said, "for women leaving difficult situations, women who need financial support to rebuild." Jasmine smiled. "Let's make it happen." The foundation launched in September. Mara called it Second Horizon, a name that felt both hopeful and honest. It provided grants to women escaping domestic abuse, women restarting careers, women who needed help with legal fees or housing or childcare. She kept it quiet at first. No press, no publicity, just direct help to women who needed it. But word spread. By November, she was funding 20 women. By December, 50. She met some of them in person, heard their stories, saw their gratitude and their strength. One woman, Elena Vasquez, came to Mara's office in tears. "You don't understand," Elena said. "My husband controlled everything. The money, the car, the house. When I left, I had nothing. Your grant let me hire an attorney. Let me fight for custody. I have my kids back because of you." Mara hugged her. "You fought for them. I just helped remove the obstacles." "No," Elena said. "You gave me power." "That's different." Mara thought about that later. About the difference between removing obstacles and giving power. She'd spent years thinking someone else had to give her permission to matter. The lottery hadn't changed that. It had just revealed what was already true. She'd always had power. She just hadn't known how to use it. On a Saturday morning in late December, almost exactly 1 year after the divorce papers were filed, Mara stood in her kitchen, making coffee. The house was quiet. Ethan was still asleep. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting pale light through the windows. She'd been awake for an hour, reviewing grant applications for Second Horizon. There were 63 new requests this month. Women from Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, El Paso. Stories of survival and resilience and desperate need. She couldn't fund them all, but she could fund many. Her phone buzzed with an email from Jasmine. Subject: Year-end portfolio review. Mara opened it. The foundation had given away $4.2 million this year. Her portfolio, despite that, had grown. Smart investments, careful management. She was worth more now than when she'd won. Money, she'd learned, was the easiest part. The hard part was deciding who you wanted to be once you had it. At noon, Ethan came downstairs, still in his pajamas. "Morning, sweetheart," Mara said, pouring him orange juice. "Morning." He sat at the kitchen island. "What are you doing today?" "Foundation work. Maybe lunch with Diane." "What about you?" "Can I go to Tyler's house?" "Sure, I'll drop you off." They ate breakfast together, scrambled eggs and toast, the kind of simple meal that felt significant because it was chosen, not assigned. "Mom," Ethan said after a while, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Are you happy?" She looked at him. He was growing so fast, taller every month, his face losing the softness of childhood. He looked like Samuel, but had her expressions, her caution, her kindness. "Yes," she said. "I am." "You seem different than before." "Different how?" "I don't know. Like, you're here. Before, you were always doing things, but it felt like you weren't really here. Does that make sense?" It made perfect sense. "I was performing," Mara said, "trying to be what I thought everyone needed. Now I'm just being myself." "Is that easier?" "Much easier." Ethan nodded. "Good. I like this version better." She reached across the counter and squeezed his hand. That afternoon, Mara met Diane at a restaurant in Bishop Arts District. They ordered wine and shared stories, the way they used to before Mara's life had become a performance. "You look good," Diane said, studying her. "Really good." "I feel good." "Any regrets?" Mara thought about it. "About the divorce?" "No. About staying as long as I did." "Sometimes." "What would you tell yourself back then if you could?" "That being needed isn't the same as being valued. That compromise only works if both people are doing it. And that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away." Diane raised her glass. "To walking away." Mara clinked her glass against Diane's. "To walking away." Later that evening, Mara was in her home office when her phone rang. Samuel's name appeared on the screen. She hadn't spoken to him in months. Their communication went through attorneys and custody coordinators. He'd remarried in October, to Brooke, unsurprisingly, and moved to Chicago for a new job. She almost didn't answer. Then curiosity won. "Hello?" "Mara." His voice sounded smaller than she remembered. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "What do you need, Samuel?" A pause. "I wanted to apologize." "Okay. I mean it. I was a terrible husband. I took you for granted. I lied to you. I convinced myself it was justified because I was unhappy, but that's not an excuse." Mara waited. "I see Ethan every other weekend," Samuel continued, "and he talks about you, about the foundation, about the house, about how happy you are. And I realized, I never saw you like that. I never made you happy." "No," Mara agreed. "You didn't. I'm sorry." She believed him, not because he'd changed, but because he'd finally lost enough to understand what he'd had. "Thank you for saying that," she said. "Do you think we could ever—" "No, Samuel, we couldn't." "Right, of course." Another pause. "Are you happy?" "Yes." "Good. You deserve it." They said goodbye. She hung up and set her phone down. She felt nothing. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Not even pity. Just peace. On New Year's Eve, Mara hosted a small party. Diane came, Jasmine, Patricia, a few women from the foundation. Ethan invited 2 friends. They gathered in her living room, eating catered food and laughing at stories. At midnight, they counted down together, then toasted with champagne and sparkling cider. "To new beginnings," Diane said, raising her glass. "2 second chances," Patricia added. Mara looked around the room at the people she'd chosen, the life she'd built, the woman she'd become. "To power," she said quietly, "and knowing how to use it." They drank. Later, after everyone had left and Ethan was asleep, Mara stood on her back patio and looked at the stars. The night was cold and clear. The city lights dimmed the constellations, but didn't erase them. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, the woman who'd stood in line at a grocery store and bought a ticket on impulse, who'd believed a lottery win would fix her marriage, who'd driven to her husband's office with hope and walked away with clarity. That woman had been invisible, diminished, forgotten. This woman wasn't. This woman had walked into a courtroom and won, had started a foundation that changed lives, had raised a son who knew strength and kindness weren't opposites. This woman had learned that power wasn't about money or control. It was about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. The lottery had given her options, but she'd given herself freedom. And that, Mara realized, was the real win. She went inside, locked the door, and turned off the lights. Tomorrow, she would wake up and continue building the life she'd chosen. A life where she wasn't background, wasn't infrastructure, wasn't invisible. A life where she mattered. Not because someone else said so, but because she knew it was true. And that made all the difference. The end.